there's certain indicators. One of them is a lump in my mouth, which over a few days hardened to a gristly lump, granuloma type lump. Now, if you do some digging read the Witch Hunter's Handbook and old Vatican records and that, and there's millions of texts written on demonology around the world, you will see references to something called stigmata diabolis.
That's right.
With the devil's mark. Now, my work has shown that when a significant evil entity attaches to somebody, it causes a physical manifestation, usually some kind of skin blemish. Now, and the most significant of these are the hard, gristly lumps. During the witch hunts, the primary method of identification was they would search the body for this stigmata diabolis mark. And according to them, you had to be able to push a needle into it, and it would neither hurt the person and it wouldn't bleed. So it had to be a gristly type lump for that to occur. Now, if that was found, you were nicked. There was no defence. But if they didn't find anything, you were released. And there are several cases on record where people have been released after a physical examination during the witch trials.
Oh, how many innocent people during the witch trials were burned or executed or killed?
Oh, that's hard to say. It was a very involved thing. There was a lot of money making going on, and human nature, and property stealing and stuff like that. So, but the basic tenement to what they were searching for, there is some truth to it.
In other words, there really were and are witches.
Oh, definitely witches, yeah.
And you're saying there is a physical way to is it a fairly flawless way to identify them?
I wouldn't say flawless, because there are, medical reasons why those sort of lumps and marks appear on your body. But you can tell with that sort of lump, if that appears very quickly, I mean almost instantly, at the time when you suffer something like a possession attack, then you could pretty well narrow it down to that is associated with what just happened, the psychic attack. Now, the interesting thing is here, when I released myself from this entity, that lump, the instant I released myself, that lump burst inside my mouth into 100 pieces and bled and left a big hole inside my lip. I've still got the scar there.
Wow.
So that shows you the relationship. Now, I've tried to be in touch with the Vatican over this, and I've emailed them and written them letters, including letters written in Italian, trying to get some comments and feedback on this, because if you are doing demonic exorcisms, you would have to be blind not to notice the relationship between these lumps and the actual possession.
During the time that you were possessed and you were doing these things, particularly with a child, Robert, I guess in your lucid, self-possessed moments, you would consider something like killing yourself. How close did you come?
Oh, very close. I'm an honourable man, and that would be an honourable solution. And I would figure then that I win by default, because I've never harmed anybody. And I'm a very gentle man. It's just not in my nature to hurt anybody. I couldn't stand to do that. So that was a way out. But what I did was, I had no knowledge of what to do with this. And I'd been along to a few psychic healers and people who basically rolled their eyes back in the head and, couldn't do anything for me. They tell you to visualise some white light or something, but it doesn't work. Not in a case like that. So what I did in desperation, my third choice was to literally do what I believed as a mystic, and to basically surrender my life to God for direction. Because I figured logically, given all that I'd done and all that I planned to do, including writing the books I've written and the ones I'll write in the future and helping people,
yes,
my higher self, God, whatever you want to call it, would try and contact me with a message, some clue to help me. That's logical.
Sure.
So grabbing the bull by the horns, I walked out into, it was actually a stormy night, a pouring down with rain, and I staggered through the wilderness for hours, bouncing off trees and things in the dark, knowing, and I was fully convinced that I would get a message. And the message came, the scrap of rotting paper stuck to my leg after I fell into a ditch. And there was writing on it, and I thought, yes, that's it. Whatever it says on there, there's a message there. I knew it. So I took that home and had a look at it, and it told me to, it basically, interpreting it, it was an advertisement for a tree nursery up in the hills, right out in about 50 miles out of town, right in the bush, we call it over here, in the wilderness in the hills.
Yes.
Very deserted area. And so I said, right, that's where I'm going. And I packed up a swag and a couple of basics, like a blanket and that, and I headed out there. And I stayed out there in the hills for a week or so, starving, no food, just sleeping on the floor. And halfway through that, I nearly died of thirst. I ran out of water, and I was miles from anywhere. I'd never make it home. And I got another little bit of guidance. I was sitting up on the hill, waiting to die, very dry, and I wrote a few notes to my family and figured I'd be found one day, because I wasn't taking that thing back with me. I was going to die first. I was absolutely committed to that. And I sort of, said a prayer and said, hey, I could use a bit of help down here. And the most curious thing happened. It was a cloudless day, brilliant blue sky, and a tiny little cloud appeared a few hundred yards from me up above the valley. This got bigger and bigger and bigger until it formed this, size of a little cloud, and this formed into the shape of a person, of a head and shoulders. Mm-hmm. Very, very clear, very distinct. And this was a deity I'd encountered several months earlier when I raised my kundalini.
You're certain you were not hallucinating because of the lack... listen, we'll pick it up right here. We've got the top of the hour coming up, so relax, and we'll pick it up at that point. There are going to be those who will say it was a delusion induced by dehydration, the lack of water. But others will know better. To some degree, it just depends on what you believe. This really is some story, isn't it? Robert Bruce, from way, way down south in Australia, is my guest. You're in the nighttime with Coast to Coast